I always believed that my marriage was solid, unshakable, even. For 3 years, Anna and I had built a life together that many envied. We lived in a charming townhouse in Notting Hill, surrounded by a life filled with candlelit dinners, spontaneous weekend getaways, and whispered promises of a future together. Anna was everything I could have asked for: intelligent, elegant, and endlessly charismatic. She worked as a fashion designer, and her talent was undeniable. Watching her sketch out her visions in the dim light of our kitchen late at night, I often thought, this is it. This is what love is meant to be. Until the day she disappeared without a trace. It started like any other morning. I woke up to the golden sunlight filtering through the curtains, stretching lazily, half expecting to feel the warmth of Anna beside me. But when I turned, her side of the bed was cold. Not unusual. Anna sometimes left early for work. But the thing that made my stomach tighten? Her phone was missing, her laptop was gone, and the wardrobe door was slightly ajar. I checked my own phone. No messages, no missed calls. Still, I wasn't worried until I saw the kitchen. The coffee machine, which she used religiously every morning, was untouched. The toast she usually made was missing. The small things, the things you never think about until they're gone, felt like a massive hole in the middle of my life. I sent her a text. Me, hey, where are you? You left early. Everything okay? No response. By noon, I was calling her repeatedly. By 5 p.m., I had called her office, only to hear something that made my hands go cold. Anna doesn't work here anymore. I blinked. What? She resigned last week. Didn't she tell you? The world tilted. I held onto the edge of my desk for support. Anna, my wife, the woman who kissed me goodnight every single day for 3 years, had quit her job without telling me, and now she is gone. Panic had fully settled in by the time I checked our bank account. I had to see if something was off, if there was any clue as to where she went. Then I saw it. £150,000 missing. Gone. Transferred to a Swiss bank account that I had never seen before. My stomach clenched. Anna wasn't kidnapped. She wasn't in trouble. She had planned this. She had stolen from me. I spent the next 2 weeks hunting for answers. I called every mutual friend we had. I went to her favorite cafes, her favorite shops, her old office, nothing. Her social media, deleted. Her email, deactivated. Her family refused to speak to me. It was like she'd never existed. A friend suggested I hire a private investigator, and though it felt insane, I did it. 1 week later, the pie came back with one crucial detail. Anna had boarded a flight to Switzerland the morning she disappeared. She was running. For 6 months, I tried to move on. I threw myself into work. I went to the gym, the bar, the office, anything to fill the silence. She left behind. I told myself I would forget her, but every night, I still half expected to hear the door open and see her walk in. And just when I finally started to breathe again, she came back. It was a stormy Thursday night when I heard the knocking. Hard, desperate, almost frantic. I opened the door, and there she was, soaking wet, shaking, eyes wild with fear. My breath caught in my throat. She was thinner, paler, and looked like she hadn't slept in days. The polished, confident woman I had married was gone, replaced by someone desperate, broken. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rain. "You have to help me." I stared at her, my mind racing between fury and confusion. "Help you?" My voice came out sharp. "You disappeared, Anna. You stole from me. And now you show up here like nothing happened?" Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't have a choice. She stepped forward, gripping my arm. "They're coming for me, Ethan. I don't have anywhere else to go." I pulled away. "Who?" She hesitated then. Barely above a whisper, she said, "Victor." The name sent an icy chill through my veins. Victor. I had never met him, but I knew of him. He was a notorious businessman, rumored to be involved in money laundering, fraud, and worse. And now my wife, the woman I had once trusted more than anyone, was running from him. I stepped back, heart pounding. "What the hell did you do, Anna?" She looked at me, eyes hollow, haunted. "I made a mistake." "A mistake?" My voice was rising. "You took £150,000 from me and vanished. How the hell is that just a mistake?" She flinched, tears spilling down her face. I know. But please, I have nowhere else to go." I ran a hand through my hair, rage and confusion battling inside me. "Why the hell should I help you?" Anna collapsed onto the floor, clutching her stomach, sobbing uncontrollably. "Because if you don't," she gasped, "we're both going to die." The words sliced through me like a knife. I stared at her, my mind screaming at me to throw her out, to let her face the consequences of whatever she had done. But I couldn't move, because despite everything, a part of me still loved her, and that was the most dangerous part of all. Anna lay on my living room floor, her body trembling from exhaustion, rain-soaked hair plastered to her face. The storm outside raged on, but the real hurricane was the one brewing inside my head. She was back. After 6 months, after stealing my money, after leaving me without a word, and now she was begging me for help. I should have thrown her out. I wanted to, but I didn't, because I needed to know the truth. I crouched down, gripping Anna's arm, forcing her to look at me. "Who is Victor?" My voice was sharp, demanding. She swallowed hard, her breath shaky. "He's the man I stole from." A bitter laugh escaped me. "Oh, so it wasn't just me you robbed?" I let go of her. How comforting. She flinched at the venom in my voice, but didn't argue. Instead, she wiped at her face and whispered, "He's not just some businessman, Ethan. He's dangerous." I crossed my arms, defined dangerous. Her lips pressed into a thin line before she murmured, "He kills people." A chill raced down my spine. I had been prepared for lies, excuses, even fake tears, but not this. "You're serious?" My voice barely rose above a whisper. She nodded. "Victor is a criminal, Ethan. A real one. Money laundering, smuggling, worse. I didn't know at first. I thought he was just a powerful investor, someone who could help me grow my business. But once I realized what he was really involved in," she trailed off, shaking her head. I wanted out. I exhaled slowly, my mind struggling to process this. "And stealing his money was your way out?" Anna's jaw tightened. It was never supposed to go that far. I was trying to protect myself. I laughed. "Right. Because robbing a dangerous criminal is always a great way to stay safe." Her eyes flashed with something between anger and desperation. I had no choice. Lies. I wanted to believe she was being honest, but Anna had already proven she was capable of deception. So I pushed harder. "Then tell me everything. No more half-truths, no more excuses." She hesitated for a split second before nodding. "Fine, I'll tell you." Anna pulled her knees to her chest, her gaze distant, haunted. "A year ago, I met Victor through one of my clients, a wealthy woman, who invested in emerging designers like me. He had money, a lot of it, and he made an offer. He'd fund my next collection, help me open stores in Paris and Milan." Her voice turned hollow. It sounded like a dream. I didn't say anything. I already knew where this was going. At first, everything was legitimate. The contracts, the meetings, it was all above board. But then he started asking for favors. She swallowed. Small things. At first. A few financial transactions that didn't make sense. Packages I was told to sign for but not open. Then one day he asked me to move money for him. She clenched her fists. I refused. My pulse quickened. And then Anna exhaled sharply. He smiled. Told me I was too valuable to him to say no. A shiver ran through me. That's when I knew I was trapped. Anna turned toward me, eyes filled with regret. I had to get out. But you don't just walk away from Victor. He doesn't allow it. I stared at her, trying to imagine the world she had been living in. "So you ran." She shook her head. "Not at first. I needed leverage." A lump formed in my throat. "And that's when you took the money." Anna looked away. "It wasn't just about the money, Ethan. Victor trusted me with access to certain accounts. I found evidence transactions that could put him in prison for decades, but I needed time to figure out what to do with it. That's why I came up with a plan." My hands curled into fists, and that plan included stealing from me. She winced. "I didn't want to, but if I made any sudden withdrawals from my personal accounts, Victor would know. He was watching me. So you used me instead." My voice was cold. Anna closed her eyes. I didn't see another way. I let out a humorless laugh. "And what was the plan? Take the money and disappear forever?" Her silence was my answer. I felt something in my chest snap. She had never intended to come back. I stepped away from her, running a hand through my hair. "So why are you here, Anna? You ran away. You got what you wanted. Why come back now?" Her expression darkened. "Because I was wrong, Ethan." Her voice shook. "I thought I could disappear. I thought Victor would just move on, but he didn't. She lifted her sleeve. Dark bruises covered her arm. I stared, horrified. Anna, I've been running for 6 months. He found me in Zurich 2 weeks ago. I barely escaped. My heart pounded against my ribs. She wiped at her face, her voice barely a whisper. He knows about you. Ice filled my veins. What? He knows we were married. That I took money from you. If he can't find me, he'll go after you instead. I went still. That's why I came back, Ethan. Her voice cracked. Not just because I need help, because I know Victor and he won't stop until he's destroyed everything I ever cared about. My pulse hammered in my ears. Anna wasn't just running from her past. She had brought it straight to my doorstep. Anna's words hung in the air like a death sentence. He knows about you. I felt my stomach tighten. It was one thing for Anna to ruin her own life, but now she had dragged me into it. So what are you saying? My voice was low, controlled. That I'm in danger because of you? She nodded, her hands trembling as she clutched her soaked sleeves. Ethan, I swear I never meant for this to happen. But Victor, he doesn't forget, and he doesn't forgive. Her voice cracked. He's coming. A cold shiver ran through me. For 6 months, I had tried to forget about Anna, tried to pretend she was just a bad memory. But now she was here, warning me that a dangerous man wanted me dead. I should have been furious. I should have thrown her out. But instead, I exhaled slowly, forcing my emotions into a tight, controlled ball. What does he want? Anna swallowed hard. The money, for starters. But it's more than that. Victor wants control, power. If he thinks you helped me, he'll want to make an example out of you. The room felt smaller, suffocating. I needed to think. I had 2 options. 1. Hand Anna over to Victor, wash my hands of this mess. Let her face the consequences of her own actions. 2. Help her escape again. Neither choice was appealing. I stared at her, huddled on my couch, looking nothing like the woman I had once married. Tell me the truth, Anna. I stepped closer, watching her flinch. Do you regret it? Her lip trembled. Every single day, I wanted to believe her, but I had learned my lesson about trusting Anna. I paced the room, my mind racing. If Victor really was coming for me, I needed information. And I needed it fast. Does he know where I live? Anna hesitated. Not yet, but he has people. If they haven't found you already, they will soon. I cursed under my breath. So what? You just showed up here and expected me to fix this for you. She winced at the bitterness in my voice. No, I came because I don't know what else to do. Her voice cracked. And because I still trust you. The words hit me harder than I expected. I had trusted her once, and she had destroyed my life. And now, she was asking me to save hers. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed on the table. I frowned. It was past midnight. No one ever called me this late. Then I saw the message. Unknown number. You're in over your head, Ethan. Walk away while you can. I felt my blood go cold. What is it? Anna asked, noticing my reaction. I turned the phone toward her, and her face drained of color. Oh my God, she whispered. It's already starting. I clenched my jaw. Someone was watching me. Someone knew Anna was here. And that meant we were out of time. My mind shifted into survival mode. Get up, I ordered. Anna blinked. What? Get up, I repeated. We can't stay here. She hesitated, then nodded quickly, wiping at her damp face. I grabbed my laptop and pulled up the security cameras I had installed. After Anna left, the street outside looked empty, but that didn't mean much. Ethan, where are we going? She asked as I threw on my jacket. Somewhere safer. I didn't have a plan yet. I just knew we couldn't stay. Think. Victor was too powerful to fight head-on. If I went to the police, he'd find a way to make the problem disappear. The only way to stop him was to disappear first. And to do that, I needed help. I scrolled through my contacts, hesitating on one name, Noah Carter. He used to be my closest friend, but we hadn't spoken in years. Not since he quit his job at MI6 and disappeared into the private security world. If anyone could get us out of this, it was him. I pressed call. It rang twice before he answered. Ethan? His voice was sharp, alert. It's been a while. I need your help. That's never a good sign. It's serious, Noah. I hesitated. I think someone's trying to kill me. The line went silent. Then, where are you? I exhaled. Not safe. Are you alone? My eyes flickered to Anna. No. Noah let out a sharp breath. Damn it, Ethan. What the hell did you get yourself into? I'll explain when I see you. Noah didn't ask any more questions. Meet me at the old train station in 2 hours. And, Ethan? Yeah? Don't trust anyone. The call ended, and I turned to Anna. We need to go. Now. The rain poured down as we drove through the empty streets of London. Anna sat in passenger seat, silent, staring out the window. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then, quietly, she asked, Do you hate me? I gripped the steering wheel tighter. I don't know. Anna looked away. That's fair. I let out a slow breath. I don't know if I can ever forgive you, Anna. But right now, that doesn't matter. Surviving does. She nodded, but I could see the way her hands trembled in her lap. For all her flaws, all her mistakes, she was terrified. And as much as I wanted to hate her, I couldn't. Because deep down, a part of me still wanted to protect her. We pulled up to the abandoned train station on the outskirts of the city. The place was dark, deserted, with nothing but the sound of rain tapping against metal. Noah was already waiting by an old bench, wearing a hooded jacket, hands in his pockets. Ethan. He nodded as we stepped out. His eyes flicked to Anna. And her. I felt Anna tense beside me. You said you needed help, Noah continued. I assume this has something to do with Victor Laskov. I froze. How do you know his name? Noah's expression darkened. Because I've been tracking him for the past year. A heavy silence filled the space between us. Then he spoke again. And if he's after you? Noah exhaled. You're already dead. Noah's words hung in the cold night air. You're already dead. Anna's breath hitched beside me, her fingers tightening around the sleeves of her coat. I clenched my jaw, my mind racing. Tell me everything you know. Noah sighed, rubbing his temple. Ethan, I don't think you understand how deep this goes. Then, make me understand. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. Victor Laskov isn't just a businessman. He's a ghost. No criminal record. No paper trail. But he runs one of the most sophisticated money laundering networks in Europe. Drugs, weapons, human trafficking, you name it. He's touched it. My stomach tightened. Noah continued. Interpol's been trying to nail him for years. So have MI6, the CIA, and half the intelligence agencies in the world. But he's smart. He doesn't get his hands dirty. He makes people like Anna do it for him. I glanced at Anna. She looked away, shame written all over her face. You should have come to me sooner, Noah muttered. Maybe we could have done something before it got this bad. I exhaled. I didn't even know she was involved with him until tonight. Noah shook his head, then turned to Anna. What exactly did you steal from Victor? Anna hesitated, then finally whispered, Not just money. I frowned. What do you mean? The money was a distraction. What I really took was information. I stared at her. What information? She swallowed. Account records, transaction logs, names of his shell companies, proof that could put him away. Noah let out a low whistle. You're insane. I had no choice. Anna shot back. If I didn't take it, he would have killed me anyway. I felt like the ground had just shifted beneath me. Anna hadn't just stolen from a criminal. She had stolen the one thing that could destroy him. And now, he wanted it back. I ran a hand through my hair, trying to process everything. So where is it? I asked. Anna hesitated. It's safe. Noah scoffed. Define safe. Somewhere he can't reach. Noah wasn't buying it. Neither was I. We don't have time for games, Anna. I stepped forward. If Victor is coming, we need to know where the files are. She hesitated, then whispered. I hid them in Geneva. I exchanged a glance with Noah. Switzerland, I muttered. She nodded. A secure storage unit. I paid in cash under a fake name. No digital trail. Noah sighed. That's the first smart thing you've done. I turned to him. So what do we do? Noah crossed his arms. We get to Geneva before Victor does. The moment we left the train station, I felt it. We were being watched. Noah led us through the narrow back streets, avoiding main roads. Anna clung close, her body tense. We're running out of time, she whispered. We reached my car, but as soon as we got in, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number, going somewhere, Ethan. I gritted my teeth. Victor knew. They found us, I muttered. Anna paled. How? Noah's jaw tightened. Doesn't matter. We need to move. Now. I floored the gas pedal, sending the car speeding through the empty streets. In the rearview mirror, 2 black SUVs appeared. We've got company, I muttered. Noah didn't hesitate. He pulled a Glock 19 from his jacket. Drive faster. The SUVs closed in fast. Anna gasped as one of them swerved, trying to cut us off. Ethan, I see it. I yanked the wheel hard, narrowly dodging the block. The car skidded onto a side street, tires screeching against the wet pavement. Noah rolled down the window, gun in hand. Hold steady. I didn't ask questions. A loud crack echoed through the air as Noah fired 2 shots. One of the SUVs jerked sideways, its front tire exploding. It slammed into a parked car with a metallic crunch. The second SUV sped up, coming alongside us. Through the tinted glass, I saw a man in a suit, holding what looked like a silenced pistol. He aimed. Anna screamed. I reacted without thinking. I slammed the brakes. The sudden stop threw the SUV off balance, and before the gunman could fire, Noah emptied his clip into the vehicle. The SUV swerved, hit the curb, and flipped. We sped away before the wreckage had even stopped smoking. For miles, no one spoke. My hands gripped the wheel so tightly, my knuckles were white. Anna sat in stunned silence, her breathing shallow. Noah reloaded his gun. This isn't over, he muttered. I exhaled. We need to get out of the country. Now, Noah nodded. I can get us fake passports, but we need to be smart. Victor owns people at every airport. Anna finally spoke. There's another way. We both turned to her. I know someone who can get us out. I frowned. Who? She hesitated. Her name is Elise. She helped me before. She specializes in disappearing people. Noah and I exchanged a glance. Can we trust her? I asked. Anna swallowed. We don't have a choice. Anna dialed a number from memory. The call rang once, twice. Then a smooth female voice answered. Anna. I felt a chill run down my spine. Elise, Anna whispered. I need your help. A pause. You're in trouble. Yes. Victor? Anna hesitated. Yes. Where are you? Anna looked at me. I nodded. London. Get to the docks. Pier 17. Midnight. The line went dead. Noah exhaled. Well, that's not ominous at all. Anna turned to me. She's our only shot. I didn't like this. I didn't trust any of it. But I had no better options. Let's go. As we drove toward the docks, I felt it again. That lingering sense that we were already too late. Victor wasn't just chasing Anna anymore. He was hunting all of us. And if we weren't careful, this would be our last night alive. The docks were eerily quiet when we arrived at Pier 17. The distant hum of cargo ships echoed across the black water, and the air was thick with the salty scent of the Thames. Noah and I stepped out first, scanning the area. Anna stayed close behind, her hood pulled up, hands stuffed into the pockets of her coat. Somewhere in the shadows, Elise was waiting for us. This feels like a trap, Noah muttered. Everything feels like a trap, I replied. Fair point. We moved carefully toward the meeting spot, a rusted-out shipping container near the water. A lone figure stood against it, smoking. As we approached, she stepped into the light. Elise. She was tall, elegant, and dressed in all black, her platinum blonde hair tied in a sleek ponytail. But it was her eyes that unsettled me, calculating, sharp, like she saw every move before it happened. Anna. Her voice was smooth, unbothered. You look like hell. Anna crossed her arms. It's been a rough few months. Elise exhaled smoke, glancing at Noah and me. And these are your friends? They're the only reason I'm still alive. Elise smirked. How sweet. Then she turned to me. And you must be the husband. Ex-husband, I corrected. Still standing next to her, though, she noted. That's interesting. I didn't respond. Elise took another drag of her cigarette. You called me because you need to disappear. Anna nodded once. We need to get to Geneva. Safe and untraceable. Elise smiled. Safe and untraceable has a price. I expected that. What I didn't expect was her next sentence. And the price is the files. Anna frozen. No, she whispered. Elise shrugged. Then I can't help you. Anna turned to me, panic flashing in her eyes. We can't give her the files, Ethan. Why not? I asked. Because I don't trust her, Anna hissed. She's not doing this to help us. She wants to sell them. Elise laughed softly. Of course I do. That's what I do, sweetheart. She flicked her cigarette into the water. You don't call me for favors, Anna. You call me when you're desperate. She tilted her head toward me. And you? What do you think? I stared at her, my mind racing. Giving her the files meant giving up the only leverage we had against Victor. But refusing her meant we were on our own. I turned to Noah. Can we trust her? Noah exhaled sharply. No. I expected Elise to be offended, but she just smiled. He's right. You shouldn't trust me. She stepped closer to Anna. But let me tell you something. Darling, you're running out of people to trust. I had to think fast. We had one advantage left, the fact that Victor didn't have the files yet. Here's the deal, I said. We're not handing over the files. But if you get us to Geneva, we'll cut you in on whatever happens next. Elise raised an eyebrow. You think you have the upper hand? I met her gaze. I think you like money more than loyalty. And if we play this right, we all walk away rich. For the first time, Elise actually considered it. Then she sighed. Fine. She gestured to a black SUV parked nearby. Let's get moving. Anna exhaled shakily. I didn't trust Elise. But for now, she was our only way out. We were barely 5 minutes on the road when Noah's phone buzzed. He checked it. Then his entire body went rigid. Pull over. I glanced at him. What? Now. Something in his tone made me obey. The car skidded to a stop on an empty road near the outskirts of London. What is it? I asked. Noah's expression was grim. Victor. He held up his phone. He just sent me a message. I felt my blood go cold. Unknown number. Turn around, Ethan. Before it's too late. Anna shook her head violently. How did he find us? Noah's grip tightened around his gun. Doesn't matter. We need to assume he's close. That's when we saw the headlights. 3 black SUVs emerged from the darkness, blocking the road ahead. Anna's breath hitched. It's him. My heartbeat pounded against my ribs. Noah cursed under his breath, rolling down the window slightly, gun in hand. Elise? She didn't seem surprised at all. I turned to her. You knew. She didn't deny it. Victor has eyes everywhere. I gritted my teeth. You set us up. Elise signed. I didn't have a choice. Noah raised his gun. You always have a choice. Before anyone could say another word, the SUV doors opened, and a man stepped out, tall, calm, dressed in an expensive black suit. Anna's breath hitched beside me. Victor, she whispered. He smiled. Hello, my dear. His eyes flicked to me, full of amusement. And you must be Ethan. I clenched my fists. He took a step closer. You've caused me quite a bit of trouble. Then he smiled. Let's talk. Victor stood in front of us, calm and composed, like a man who had already won. His expensive black suit barely had a wrinkle, his dark eyes assessing us with bored amusement. You've caused me quite a bit of trouble, Ethan, he said smoothly. I don't appreciate that. Anna tensed beside me. Her whole body trembled. I could feel Noah shifting slightly, his hand hovering over his gun. Elise, however, looked almost relaxed, as if she knew exactly how this would play out, and that terrified me. What do you want? I asked, keeping my voice steady. Victor smiled. I think you already know. His eyes flickered to Anna. The files. Anna shook her head. Even if I give them to you, you'll kill us anyway. Victor tilted his head, considering. Possibly. But if you don't give them to me? He sighed. Well, then I have to start getting creative. He snapped his fingers. The SUV doors opened. 4 heavily armed men stepped out. So, here's how this works, Victor continued. You tell me where the files are, and I let you leave London alive. Simple. His tone was so casual, as if he were discussing the weather. Anna hesitated. For a brief moment, I thought she might actually break. So I did something reckless. They're in Zurich, I said. Anna snapped her head toward me. Ethan, I ignored her. A safety deposit box. Bank vault. No digital records. You need both our fingerprints to open it. Victor studied me carefully. Then, he smiled. You're lying. I forced a smirk. Am I? Then shoot me and see how far you get. Victor's expression didn't change, but I saw the slightest flicker of hesitation in his eyes. He needed those files, and he knew I was his best shot at getting them. Fine, he said. We are going to Zurich. Then he looked at his men. Bring them. We were shoved into one of the SUVs, Noah between me and Anna. Elise had vanished into the night, her role in this over. Victor sat across from us, watching us like a cat watches mice. I hope for your sake, he said, that you're not wasting my time. I didn't respond. I was too busy thinking. Because this was it. Our last move. And I had one chance to turn the tables. The convoy took us to a private airstrip outside the city. A sleek black jet waited for us on the tarmac. Victor gestured toward it. After you. I stepped forward, and then everything exploded. Gunfire erupted from the darkness. Victor's men shouted in panic, and then I heard Noah's voice in my ear. Run. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed Anna's hand and bolted. Victor's men were too busy returning fire to chase us. We sprinted toward a small security building, ducking behind a stack of cargo crates. What the hell is happening? Anna gasped. Noah grinned. Plan B. Plan B. I panted. He gestured toward the chaos. I called in a favor. I peeked around the crates. A team of black-clad operatives was tearing through Victor's men like a storm. Me-6? I asked. Noah smirked. Something like that. It didn't take long. Victor's men were outmatched. One by one, they were neutralized. And then, finally, Victor himself was dragged into the floodlights. Hands zip-tied. Face bloodied. Suit ruined. For the first time, he looked afraid. Noah stepped forward. You're done, Laskoff. Victor sneered. You think prison can hold me? Noah leaned in. Oh, you're not going to prison. Victor's smirk faded. Then the operatives pulled him away, disappearing into the night. Anna collapsed against me, shaking. It was over. Victor was gone. And we were still alive. 2 weeks later, Anna and I sat in a small cafe in Geneva. For the first time in forever, she looked at peace. Are we safe? She asked quietly. Noah, sitting across from us, nodded. Victor's network is collapsing. He'll never come back from this. I exhaled slowly. It was finally over. Anna looked at me. Ethan, I held up a hand. Don't. She swallowed hard. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I studied her carefully. Then I nodded. I know. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was enough. Noah stretched. So, what's next? Anna hesitated. I just want a normal life. She turned to me. And you? I thought about it. About everything that had happened. And then I smiled. I think I'll go home. Anna nodded. Yeah. She exhaled softly. You deserve that. We finished our coffee in silence. And when we left the cafe, we went our separate ways. Because some things, no matter how much you try to fix them, are never meant to be. Story 2. The title of this story is Parents Kicked Me Out Because My Sister Was Pregnant. They beg my forgiveness now that they are destitute. Hello everyone. Prior to the start of today's video, I need your assistance. One of the greatest ways you can help us out is to subscribe, since we've observed the channel is losing some of its popularity. It's simple, free, and helps us continue to provide you with amazing content. Your assistance is much appreciated. Together, let's continue to build this channel. Many thanks. Let's begin the video now. Alright Reddit, here's the deal. I've been sitting on this story for a long now, and truthfully I wasn't sure if I should share it. But considering all that occurred recently, I decided why not. Fair warning though, this is going to be a long one lol. I'm 19 male now, but this whole shit show started about a year ago when I just turned 18 and man, my family really picked the absolute worst time to go full drama mode on me, right in the middle of finals week, because apparently the universe was like, hey, you know what would make studying for physics even more fun? Being without a place to live. You should realize, first of all, that my family situation was already somewhat chaotic, as if we're discussing dysfunction on par with Jerry Springer. Emma is my half-sister. It's obviously not her true name, but she's the kind of person who would go by Emma. Reveals, shockingly, that she is expecting a child with her lover. Tyler's child. By the way, Tyler is just the type of man you're imagining. Daddy's credit card, boat shoes, the whole thing. Suddenly, all we need to free up space for Emma to return home is my stepdad, Rick. Quick background. My stepfather is Rick, Emma's true dad. They met in college, and allegedly they were this on-again, off-again thing during their sophomore year. Mom got pregnant with Emma, and suddenly they had to figure their shit out. However, they didn't. After graduation, they parted ways, but Rick remained to be Emma's father, and the romance remained. He only turned up when it was convenient for him after all. After a few years, my mom meets my biological father. His name is James, based on what I know about him. In fact, he was a good man. He passed away in a vehicle accident when I was a baby after they dated for around 2 years, got married, and had me. But hold on, I just learned more about that tale, and wholly shared to you guys. It's crazy. Anyway, Rick managed to crawl his way back into the picture when my dad passed away. were back together with my mom, and they were married when I was like 3 or 4. By the way, this is where the story becomes chaotic. This little guy has seen some bad things, and I rescued him from a shelter when I was 14. He arrived at a time when tensions were running high at home, and I can assure you that he has been discreetly criticizing my family's nonsense ever since. Speaking of beer, let me to describe what it was like to grow up in this house. Do you recognize the blended families that you see on television, a la Happy Brady Bunch? It wasn't that at all, I agree. I was just, I guess, the free trial kid that came with the package. And Rick made it quite obvious from on that he was there for my mom and Emma. I mean, I'm not even making this up. This man would actually go into a room, greet Emma, and behave like I was invisible. I once received an A+ on a particularly challenging scientific assignment when I was around 12 years old. I tried showing him since I was so delighted, and like I was a ghost, this MF simply strolled by me. He would be like, "OMG, princess, you tried your best," if Emma received a C in the interim. Emma also learned from the greatest. She regarded me like a random NPC in her idealized little life tale when I was growing up. In the Friends episode where Rachel discovers her sister has her niece's ears pierced without permission, do you recall? Emma was terrible. She persuaded me to allow her to cut my hair while I slept when I was 8 years old. Ruined an entire family picture shoot. Rick found it funny, but Mom was furious. He said, "Kids being kids." Yes, exactly. Seeing my mom attempt to act like nothing was wrong was the most entertaining part. She would frequently say things like, "I love you both equally, and we are all family." But, deeds speak louder than words, as if she simply let Rick or Emma to act rudely whenever they did, made justifications, advised me to try harder to get along with them, or that I was being overly sensitive. When I was younger, I tried. Oh, God knows I tried. I used to go out of my way to win their approval. I would help Emma with her schoolwork, despite the fact that she was older. And I would try to talk to Rick about sports or anything else he was interested in. But eventually, you simply quit up. Anarchy. I completely understand. TBU, this cat would simply sit there and watch all of this drama play out, looking like, yeah, these people are a bunch of shit. After one of Rick's family meetings, which essentially consisted of him telling me what I was doing wrong as Emma grinned in the background, he would always snuggle up with me when I was angry. For years, I believed this to be the norm. I honestly believed that mixed families operated in this manner. I had no idea how messed up my situation was until I started going to my friend Jake's house. His stepfather treated him like a real person, spoke to him, and helped him with his schoolwork. However, for the majority of my childhood, it was my life, watching my mom seem like everything was okay while attempting to avoid upsetting Rick or Emma. Anyway, let's get back to the current clusterfuck. They thus determined that Emma has to return home in order to receive the assistance she needs at this unique period. Mom's exact words, "I'm not kidding. Keep in mind that Tyler earns a respectable salary at his corporate position, and Emma, 24, has a steady income working from home. However, it seems that they were unable to manage living in their own apartment while pregnant. They say that I should give up my room, not Rick's home office, which, incidentally, was Emma's former room, and which he uses perhaps twice a year to act like he's working. Not at all. Emma couldn't sleep anywhere else, so it had to be my room, the living room, one of the house's other vacant rooms. Avoid being absurd. Oh, and this is definitely the time to disclose my cat craziness. I got this one-eyed rescue cat when I was 14 years old, and to be honest, he's been the only reliable good member of this family. Chaos was sitting on my desk the day they informed me I had to give up my room, just glaring at them with one eye like, "Are you fucking kidding me, Ren?" I promise that Cat's judgment is superior to all of them put together. But what really struck me was how all of this happened at the same time. Literally, the day before my physics final, they dropped this bomb. I'm not even making this up. As usual, Rick storms into my room without knocking, as I'm sitting there trying to memorize formulae. He tells me to start packing away my belongings, since Emma wants the room as soon as possible. I attempted to emphasize that Emma had her own space, and that I was in the thick of finals week. Rick just went all dictator mode and began shouting that I was now legally an adult and that he was no longer required to let me live under his roof, even though this made absolutely no sense. It's a very natural approach to handle your stepchild. You want to know what shattered me, though? Why did I now grasp how messed up this whole thing was? Mom. Rick was off, and she simply stood there. And then I turned to her for encouragement. Do you know what she said? We need to focus on the real grandchild now. The actual grandchild. Apparently, I wasn't genuine enough. When she stated that, chaos really snarled at her. More evidence that the only sensible person in this house is my cat. I won't tell lies. That was painful. Even while I was aware that Rick and Emma didn't consider me family, hearing from my own mother essentially validated my long-held suspicions. That struck a new chord. That's how this whole disaster began then. I was attempting to prepare for finals when my pregnant half-sister decided she wanted my room, and I was suddenly homeless. My one-eyed cat was the only one who didn't appear to think this was ridiculous. This is the point at when everything truly went south. It was a masterclass in manipulation. So allow me to explain how that entire announcement transpired. I was studying for my finals in my room. One by one, Chaos was removing my pencils from the desk like he always did, because that seems to be the height of cat enjoyment. Emma's delighted voice comes from downstairs all of a sudden. This was already strange since Emma, the same girl who missed my high school graduation because she had a hair appointment, never just stopped by unless she needed something. On a Sunday night, however, she was there with Tyler. When my mother summoned me downstairs for a family meeting, I sensed something was wrong. In my home, pro tip. Typically, a family meeting entailed getting everyone together to talk about how the OP is failing them all. However, things were different this time. Tyler had a strange, apprehensive look on his face, and Emma was literally jumping off the walls. With the exception of Chaos, who was observing from the top of the bookcase like the theatrical bitch that he is, we are all seated in the living room. Emma then launches into a lengthy lecture about significant shifts and new chapters. As I sit here, it seems to me that she has finally received the promotion she has been boasting about for months. When she reveals the truth, we are expecting a child. To begin with, we weren't expecting. Emma was expecting a child. Tyler's aim was simply poor, but whatever. You guys ought to have witnessed my mother's and Rick's reactions. Emma could have just declared that she had cured cancer or something. Mom was in tears. Tyler was standing there, perhaps trying to recall if he had left the stove on, while Rick was performing this strange, proud father thing. Emma begins discussing her ideas after all the tears and embracing. Recall that Tyler and Emma had their own apartment. It's also not an awful location. Despite having 2 beds, an excellent location, and proximity to both of their employment, the baby evidently didn't think it was good enough. During the pregnancy, we've been considering moving back home, Emma explains. She asked to go back home with her lover in a house that was already full, and from the way she expressed it, you would think this was the most common request in the world. Naturally, Mom was all with it. Sure, darling, we'll work things out. In the meantime, I'm sitting there mentally calculating where in the world they're going to put 2 entire more adults. We can turn my office back into a bedroom, Rick says, and for about 2.5 seconds, I think, hey, maybe they're actually being reasonable for once. It turns out that the nursery was supposed to be Rick's office. Since the pregnant princess could not possibly sleep in a converted office or, much alone, stay in her own apartment, Emma and Tyler would be using my room. The finest aspect, their logic. Emma begins to talk about how she doesn't want to be alone throughout her pregnancy and that Tyler travels occasionally for work, perhaps once every several months. Living rent-free would also allow them to save money for the kid. How practical. Since I was still in high school and had finals coming up, I tried to bring up the possibility that this was a little unfair. Rick went into full asshole mode, so it seems it was the wrong thing to say. Emma needs help right now. I was suggesting that we throw her out on the street, he stated. Family does this. Family, huh? For all these years, they had been such a wonderful example of family. Mom was likely already organizing the baby shower in her mind as she sat there nodding along. No one inquired about my feelings. No one even gave me a glance. It was as though I had vanished out of thin air. Tyler seemed uneasy as well. The man simply stood there, moving from foot to foot, presumably curious as to how he moved in with his girlfriend's family after owning a home of his own. However, he also remained silent, continued to tighten his collar as if it had suddenly become too tight. Chaos, on the other hand, had taken up residence on the arm of my chair and was doing his best for everyone. Are you seriously joking with me? I promise you that cats are more situationally aware than most people. But hold on, things will improve. Emma then begins to talk about how she is eager to connect with me during her pregnancy and how I can support her and the unborn child. They requested a complimentary babysitter. Immediately following the news, Emma and Tyler began moving their belongings in. For example, I'm attempting to prepare for my final in chemistry. Additionally, Tyler appears to be as at ease as a cat in a swimming pool as he moves boxes up and down the steps. The finest aspect? They didn't even wait till I had finished packing. While I was in school, Emma just began to stuff her clothes into my wardrobe. Half of my belongings were crammed into trash bags in the hallway when I got home. Despite his displeasure, Chaos spent the whole afternoon crashing Emma's expensive cosmetic brushes into the toilet. Well done, kitty. However, this is where the fun begins. Emma begins experiencing morning sickness around 2 months into this nightmare. Every morning, she would fling herself theatrically into the couch and demand that someone bring her ginger ale and crackers. I usually tried to get ready for school at the same time. It's funny because her timing was always that way. This stuff was being eaten up by Mom and Rick. She was being treated as though she were the first pregnant person in history. Tyler, meanwhile, appears to be reconsidering his life decisions. The man began to work late at the workplace excessively. I can't hold him responsible. The ultimatum trademark followed. Emma was a few months along in her pregnancy, and I was really beginning to think that this might not be as horrible as it seemed. In the basement, I had set aside a little space for studying. I was counting down the days till graduation when Chaos took control of the dryer and made it his new domain. Rick then convened another family gathering. Imagine this. Like a Victorian woman with vapors, Emma is spread out on the couch. Rick is standing there with his arms crossed, attempting to project authority, while Mom hovers about her with a worried expression. Rick begins, "We need to talk about expectations, and I can see right away that this is going to be baloney. Emma will require a great deal of assistance when the baby is born." Yes, that's what her baby daddy is for, I thought as I sit there, but I don't say anything. Chaos, who has come to despise these family gatherings just as much as I do, is sitting on the ledge and glaring at everyone. Then Rick reveals the truth. "We believe that your assistance with the infant would be ideal. Since you live here, you don't have to pay rent." To begin with, when they initiated this chat, I was fucking 17. Second, what? However, things improve. Their entire plot was prearranged. As I was just attending community college, I would assist Emma during the day. Not mine, but theirs. And I could continue to live off of checks and notes in return, my very own basement. The to-do list was crazy. Get up early to assist with the infant so Emma may get some rest. While Emma works from home, keep an eye on the infant. She needs assistance as a new mother, so run errands for her. In essence, they wanted a free living nanny who would pay them rent in exchange for the unending appreciation they would get for having their basement as a place to sleep. The most sensible thing in the world, Mom, is to sit there and nod along like this. Emma is also wearing a smug little smirk. I turn to face Tyler, expecting him to say anything, but he doesn't. The man became really intrigued with his phone. To be honest, I simply sat there in disbelief, as if I knew they didn't view me as an equal family member. But this was a whole new level of arrogance. I wish I could say I stood up at that moment and told them all to go fuck themselves. Actually, in the midst of Rick's sermon about family responsibilities, the best reaction sprang from Chaos. Emma boasted about her $500 expensive pocketbook all week, and my cat just plain puked on it. The chef's kiss was the perfect moment. Excellent. The days that followed were quite stressful. They continued giving me subtle clues about how unappreciative I was and how true family members help one another. Emma began to rehearse her motherly voice, giving me directions as if she were already the head of the household. I applied for every scholarship I could find and began searching for a way out. I asked pals about potential housing arrangements, but I didn't say anything, give them the impression that I was cornered. They had no idea that I possessed a secret weapon. More precisely, a best buddy with amazing parents and a one-eyed cat. Here's the problem, though. When you're 18, unemployed, and still in high school, you have very few alternatives. I also have to consider turmoil. Since 6th grade, Jake had been my best buddy. Without any questioning, he was the type of buddy who would assist you in concealing a body. That's not what we ever done. Most likely, his family was aware of the type of shit show I was dealing with since they had witnessed all the turmoil I had experienced over the years. I was playing Xbox One at Jake's house the day after Rick's brief lecture about family responsibilities, moaning about my family while being kicked in the ass by COD. Sarah, his mother, heard it all. She resembles Emma from the past. In fact, Good doesn't believe she is the center of the universe. An ordinary individual, you know. You always have a place here, don't you? Sarah replies, pulling me aside. I almost burst into tears there. Angle. It seemed different to have someone's mother genuinely care about me. However, I didn't want to cause trouble. I promised to find a solution. Then she revealed this shocking fact. We've been waiting years for you to require our assistance, honey. Since you were 16, the guest room has been prepared. As it turns out, they had been essentially waiting for the other shoe to drop while they watched my family's circumstances worsen. They had actually prepared for the day, since they knew Rick and Emma were poisonous. I may require a way out. The guest room situation made me feel as though these folks had a full room, set aside in case I needed it. My own family, meanwhile, was attempting to have me work as Emma's personal servant by putting me in the basement. Still, I wasn't sure if I would accept their offer. Then Emma started acting like a complete jerk. That made the choice very simple. Do you recall how she had been storing her belongings in my room during my time at school? She's going through my desk drawers one day when I get home. I'm just cleaning out some of your junk, she adds, spreading out all of my belongings on the floor and dumping trash in a garbage bag, as if she's helping me out. The final birthday card was among the garbage. My mom got it from my true dad before I was born. I lost one of the few things I had of him. I started screaming at her to get out of my possessions. She pretends to cry and plays the pregnancy card, saying that I'm causing stress on the unborn child. Rick storms up the stairs and yells at me for not showing my sister any respect. Anarchy. My ride or die picked this time to convey his views about the situation by peeing right into Emma's fancy diaper bag. About $200. In my opinion, the money was wisely spent. I texted Jake about the room that evening saying, "Hey man," his answer, "There may also be chaos. Mom has already purchased a cat bed for him." When I read it, I actually started crying. These folks weren't only providing me with a place to stay, they were also ensuring my pet would be at ease. Jake and his father arrived with their pickup the following day after school. There wasn't much left because I had spent the last week gradually shifting my most significant belongings to Jake's place. I just picked up my laptop, clothing, and other chaos-related items. Do you want to know what went horribly wrong as I was packing the truck? Do you remember what my mother said? No, I apologize. Or remain, please, or anything typical. Not at all, she says. You won't be able to assist with the baby woman, I hope you understand. That's the main idea. Emma was standing in the doorway, looking at me smugly, as if she had won something, one hand on her hardly noticeable baby belly. Rick pretended nothing was going on in his office, but chaos had the final say. He took one last big poo on the welcome mat as we were leaving. I didn't even tidy up after myself. Driving away from that house was the strangest feeling ever. It felt poetic in some way. A part of me felt terrified. I mean, what on earth was I doing? Mostly, though, I just felt liberated. When we arrived at Jake's family's house, pizza was already waiting. A welcome home sign had been fashioned by his younger sister. Max, their golden retriever, was frightened of chaos from the beginning. Clever dog. In the guest room that first night, I slept better in my new room than I had in years. Chaos grabbed the windowsill right away and gave me the expression, "You've finally got your act together." I was living my finest exiled life at Jake's place after a few months. Naturally, Emma gave birth to a daughter, and I learned from common acquaintances that she was already preparing to become an Instagram mom influencer. Do you recognize the type? Staged pictures of her ideal life at 2:00 p.m., most likely sobbing into her drink. In fact, I was doing fairly well. Obtained a respectable scholarship to attend community college, worked part-time at this gaming business, and had become the absolute head of Jake's home. Max, the golden retriever, had even come to terms with his position in the new order. Then, a week or so ago, my mother suddenly sent me an email. "Don't forget that she hasn't contacted you in months. You could have developed diabetes from the phony sweetness of the email. We really do miss you, sweetie." Emma is in dire need of her brother at the moment. Madison? Yes. The infant in need is really named after her uncle. Although we acknowledge our shortcomings, family remains family. Come home for the weekend, please. I showed this to Jake's mom, and I believe she rolled her eyes so hard. In fact, Chaos, who was reading over my shoulder, crossed my keyboard to reply with a series of arbitrary letters. Even my cat realized this was BS. I chose to ignore it, but 2 days later, I received an even more urgent email. Something didn't feel right. Why get in touch now? Why is family bonding so urgently needed? Then things became rather fascinating. I received this call from an unknown number 2 days following the second email. I picked up, and it was this elderly woman's voice I've never heard before. She identifies herself as my grandma, my maternal grandma. You know, the one that purportedly abandoned my mom when she became pregnant with Emma. The person I had never seen in person or even in a photograph. I didn't think it was true. I told her I wasn't interested in whatever scam she was running, and I actually laughed into the phone. She said, "Just let us FaceTime you," just as I was about to end the call. We may demonstrate our identity, us. As it happens, my grandfather was also present. I wanted to see what they were up to, but I'm thinking this is either the most complex fraud ever or something else entirely. The first thing I notice when they FaceTime me is that this woman's eyes are exactly like my mom's. I remain doubtful though. People may look alike, you know. After that, they begin to take out these photo books. Images from my mother's childhood, high school graduation, and college years. But not just random photographs. For each one, they had a story. There were new facts, like photos of my mom pregnant with Emma, that you couldn't simply Google. What, though, truly grabbed me? They had my dad's photos, not Rick, but my real father. I had never before seen real, authentic pictures of my biological father. At a family event, he was holding baby Emma. The ones I had never met, that is. They are said to have deserted my mother when she became pregnant with Emma. The ones who were essentially Satan incarnate, as my mother put it. Everything I thought I knew about my family turned out to be false. And I mean all of it. To begin with, my mom was never abandoned by my grandparents. In fact, they were in favor of her keeping Emma. The actual problem? They wished to keep her away from Rick. Why? Because Rick was an outright addict at the time. It's not like, oh, he smokes a little marijuana. We're discussing important topics. My grandparents had witnessed directly what a disaster Rick was, having known him from the neighborhood. They issued an ultimatum to my mother. They would stand with her and the child. However, Rick was unable to participate. At first, Mom agreed. Do you recall that my biological father passed away when I was still a baby? As it happens, there's more to that tale as well. My mom and dad were really acquainted by my grandparents. They believed he would be suitable for her because he was the son of their family friends. He was, too. They appeared to be perfect after 2 years of dating and marriage. After she became pregnant with me, my mom resumed dating Rick behind my dad's back. She thought that I was Rick's child, which a paternity test has not verified. Following my birth, she expected my dad to depart when she told him about the affair. My dad didn't leave us, it turns out. After they parted ways, he really battled for partial custody. For some time, I also had it. Then, when I was 7 months old, he passed away in that vehicle accident. My mom was able to easily rewrite history, since his family didn't want anything to do with me when he passed away. And you're aware of the lovely home they've been residing in? The one from which I was expelled. It was purchased for them by my grandparents. Rather than telling my grandparents to get bent, my parents turned to them for assistance since they were broke and couldn't pay the rent, which would have been reasonable, to be honest. They got an entire house from my grandparents. It was only when they unexpectedly visited the house lately that my grandparents learned that I had been expelled. For years, they had been attempting to get back in touch, but my mother kept coming up with reasons. Then, they simply appeared at last. They learned that their great-granddaughter had been born. However, my parents were strange and evasive when they were questioned about me. After doing some research and speaking with the neighbors, they discovered that I had been out of the house for several months. While attending school with me, one of my neighbor's children informed them that I was staying with Jake's family. My grandparents were upset, like furious as hell, particularly when they learned of my mother's remark regarding the true grandchild. My parents were informed that they needed to vacate within 30 days. used the same exact terms that my parents used to describe me. You no longer have a place here. The house is still in my grandparents' names, it turns out. They had a gut feeling about Rick, so they never signed it over. Intelligent individuals. My grandparents. I now see why my mother was so eager to get back together. The loss of their home is imminent. Tyler and Emma are rushing to find a spot. They are losing all of their well-thought-out strategies. It was a difficult 30 days leading up to the move-out. My mother began by sending sporadic, phony texts expressing her want to get back in touch and that she missed me. When that failed, she unexpectedly arrived at Jake's place. Jake's mother took care of it while I was away. My mother pretended to be a worried mother and said she was simply trying to chat. But when it didn't work, she lost her temper and began to scream about how I was destroying our relationship and about family loyalty. Jake's mother easily silenced her. You can't ignore your child for years, and then demand assistance when it suits you. She sent a lengthy email full of guilt trips about how families stay together, but that should have been the end of it. As like she hadn't ejected me the moment I caused her any inconvenience. The entire situation was disastrous from beginning to end, and last week was the last day they had to vacate. They put off as long as they could, as if there was some way that things might alter if they waited until the very last minute. My grandparents' minds. So far, they haven't packed a single box on day 29. They probably believed that if they persisted long enough, my grandparents would give up and allow them to remain. That didn't occur. In the end, Emma and Tyler found a smaller apartment across town than their previous one, which was reportedly not attractive enough for Emma's Instagram. Mom is happy. She has been sharing these extravagant tales of fresh starts and triumphing over hardships, such as the difficulties faced by girls. You're only conquering the immediate results of your own behavior. The day of the actual move was a complete mess. My mom never deserved my grandparents, who are vastly superior individuals. Hired movers to keep things from becoming a total wreck. Did not deter my mother from attempting to make it into a very theatrical occasion. She didn't go into full tantrum mode until the movers had loaded half the home. Dad, please don't just throw us out like this, she said, cornering my grandfather in the kitchen. We are related. Funny. I don't remember family treating each other the way you did, Emma, because she always has to insert herself, he remarked calmly as he dried his hands on a dish towel. This isn't fair, he said. We had a baby. My grandma eventually spoke up at that point. Until then, she had simply stood with her arms folded, observing the entire event. She did, however, genuinely chuckle at that. Oh, she murmured, shaking her head, sweetheart. What you did to Opie was fair. Fair. Fair is constantly taking and never returning anything. This question mark. It's past time. Then, saying something about how toxic this family is, Emma walked out. Tyler. Since it kind of did, he continued packing as if his life depended on it. Mom was up for one final try. She stared directly at me as she stood in the driveway, tears streaming down her cheeks. I simply don't get how you can tolerate this. This is not how families should regard one another. My grandfather arrived before me, just as I was going to respond. You're right, he utterly unperturbed. They ought not to. I'm glad you figured that out at last. Rick's voice was hardly audible throughout. As if he were operating on autopilot, he continued to move boxes from his workplace and make trips to his car. In light of what transpired 2 days later, he was probably more concerned with getting his dubious side business paperwork out of the way before anyone could see them. It turns out it was a wise decision, because he was placed on probation at work after being spotted operating his side business during working hours. Once they were gone, it couldn't have happened to a greater man. My grandparents quickly took back their home. The entire area seemed to feel lighter as soon as they left. The entire space was transformed into a real house by my grandmother. Rick's former workplace was transformed into a fully functional library by my grandfather. For the first time in years, the house truly felt hospitable, and the entire atmosphere entirely altered. They also did more than simply return my previous room to me. They did it again. Fresh paint and new furnishings. What's the best part? A personalized cat tower for mayhem. He seized power as if he had been waiting for this moment and declared the entire home to be his dominion. Since Jake's family is closer to my job and college, I still spend the most of my time with them, but I still spend the weekends at my grandparents' house. It's strange since I used to feel so unwelcome and chilly in that house. And now, it feels like home now. By the way, Emma has a GoFundMe page, removed after being reported for fraud. I have no idea who coughed. Jake's younger sister has a cough. She continues to promote her young mother overcoming adversity brand on the internet. However, people no longer fully buy it. She can't create the ideal, comfortable family life aesthetic in her new location. Thus, it seems logical that her following is declining. Tyler, meanwhile, took the initiative. He was promoted. He appears to be much less anxious now that he is not living with Rick. Mom still sends the occasional email. The final one just featured Madison with the words, "Your niece misses you, ma'am." 3 months is the child's age. I'm not missed by her. Well done. My grandparents are killing it in the meanwhile. My college education is being aided by them, despite my insistence that they not. They've also been informing me about their family history, which I was unaware of. My dad's old pictures are all in my grandmother's collection, and I never realized how much I needed to hear stories about him. By the way, chaos is flourishing. He currently owns 3 homes. The home of Jake, my grandparents, and Jake's aunt. I believe he's just collecting real estate at this point, but no one knows how he did it. Although they have come to a strange arrangement where Max pretends to be afraid and Chaos tries to be terrible, he still terrorizes Max. To be honest, it's very cute. And me? I'm doing okay. I'm doing well in college. For the first time, I have real relatives that care about me, and I enjoy my work at the gaming shop. I occasionally reflect on how things could have turned out differently if Emma hadn't become pregnant and if my parents hadn't expelled me. However, in all honesty, this was the best outcome possible. It revealed my true family to me. So, yes, that's it. Or perhaps it's only the start. In either case, I'm content.